was really excited to get Emma Lefebvre's book. I have not looked through it. I thought I would save it for our time together. So my first impressions are this beautiful cover that she drew herself and hand colored. Also, I did buy the book that has a spiral binding on it. It does come without that, just with a standard binding, but I liked the ability of it to lay flat, which I believe this book was $25. So let's crack it open here. All right, so it says how to paint and unwind in 20 tutorials. So lots in here to do with all these beautiful graphics here that she, I'm sure, drew and hand colored herself. A little bit more about the artist. If you don't know who Emma Lefebvre is, she is a YouTube artist. She's very popular. I've been watching her for months. I'm sure many of you have checked out her channel as well. All right, so let's get started here. She opens this up by using technique. She talks about the supplies needed. It looks like she uses Winsor & Newton. These are the professional grade paints in tubes is what's pictured. I personally love to just start with pre-mixed colors myself. She does break down the anatomy of a brush here. So she talks about the bristle end of it has a tip and a belly is this fat part. The ferrule is the part that is on this brush. It's metal. It's not always made out of metal. It has a handle. So this brush is made out of wood. It gives a size and a shape. Usually this one does not have a shape listed on it, but it is a round brush and it does give a brand of brush. And she covers a variety of different types of brushes that are common, and also whether or not the brush has snap to it, which is its ability to just kind of snap back into shape when you're using it. Does it just snap or does it fold over? Okay, she does break down the three most common types of watercolor paper. Cold press, which is what I generally always use. It kind of has this little, what we call it, like a tooth or a texture to it. Then there's hot press, which is completely flat, very smooth. And then you have rough. I have never used rough paper before, but it's like the texture on cold press, only more rough than that. She does recommend 140 pound 300 GSM, which is grams per square meter, which is what my favorite watercolor paper is. This Meeden, very student friendly, 100% cotton paper does fall into this category here. She goes on to say a cotton paper reacts like a piece of clothing. So the watercolor sinks right in and becomes one with the material. So you get this beautiful finish when you're using cotton paper. She talks about caring for your supplies, which is always important, especially when you're going to invest this much money in a hobby like this. She breaks down some of the more basic strokes here. She talks about how to create the different lines by using pressure. This is actually done left-handed, so you'd be kind of starting at the tip, pressing down and going straight, starting at the tip, down, tip, down, tip, down. Or once your brush is wet, you can just keep it up here on the tip and just make these really thin little lines here. But that's just what practice is. And here she's practicing thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick. So she kind of is putting you through the paces here. So lots of practice here, but ultimately there's no wrong way to paint. Just go for it. I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, so she is breaking down some basic vocabulary here. Value scale. Each of the colors in our palette will give you a value scale like this, depending upon how much water you use. Less water, very rich and creamy, kind of like cream. They will use the word cream, and then it gets less and less creamy until it's mostly water, or what they might call tea. Practice on a light wash, where you are here laying down some water and then you're laying down paint into that. Then you get this really nice gradation. Now, color bleed is where you'll get colors that once you lay down that first color and then the second color touches it, it's going to bleed into that first color. So you can tell on here, for the most part, that this is probably laid down first, this was laid down second, and then this, which is probably a little bit more watery, was laid down in the middle, and then that wants to bleed and spread over in those other areas, which is a beautiful effect. Wet on wet, wet on dry. Another thing I really love about this book is she has QR codes that are throughout the book. You can scan this and a tutorial will pop right up showing you exactly how to do this and probably answering some questions that you may have. And here's some really nice effects that you can make with salt, using a dry brush, dropping water, getting that paint to kind of spread, and ultimately understanding your water control. And here's some blooms here which show you what can happen when you do have too much water in an area, which sometimes is a desired effect, but many times it's not. So you need to know how to avoid that. All right, here's some color theory. She is Canadian, so you will see that in the spelling of several of her wording. While complementary colors are neighbors across the street from each other, which create these beautiful effects because they each make the other look their very best. Okay, so here she's talking about warm and cool colors, and she is touching a little bit on warm and cool yellow, warm and cool what looked to be more like an orange, but maybe they are a red, warm and cool blues, and warm and cool greens, which aren't spaced out exactly like a color wheel, but it's getting your mind wrapped around the idea that not all blues are cool, even though blue is a cool color. So if you had color theory back in your elementary and middle school days, you would have learned that blue is a cool color, yellow is a warm color, but there are definitely cool yellows, warm yellows, cool greens that lean towards blue, and warm greens that lean towards yellows. So when you are mixing colors on your color palette, it's going to come in handy because a warm red and a warm yellow are going to make these beautiful oranges. But if you use, let's say, a warm red and a cool yellow, your orange is going to get kind of murky, maybe a little bit more pumpkin-like, at least a little bit more muddy. So you're going to need to understand why not all of your colors are mixing the same. Here is some color charting, which is kind of like swatching, but it's more in an organized grid. It looks like this when it's done. Another QR code tutorial, which is really interesting. I don't really swatch like this because I kind of find like it's double work. So basically this color and that color are exactly the same. One's just lighter than another. I tend to swatch in a way that puts one color at the top, and then as you mix that color with this color, these are all the colors you're going to get in that mix between these two colors. Okay, so here's value scale where she goes dark to light. So far I'm really impressed. Okay, let's can't wait. All right, let's see what we've got. Here's again a list of some paints that she has in the Winsor & Newton professional line here. And she gives kind of what to do and then what not to do, which is important. And then she's giving a tutorial on the peony leaves, sap green and perylene green. And then I love this. Everything is put together in one composition. So very, very helpful. The book does not just feature florals. There's greenery, trees. I love the variety of trees. I love the variety of colors, shapes. Gives me a Bob Ross vibe right here. And I think it's important to go outside and observe how a tree is really shaped and how you cannot really see all of the branches. If you go in and you're going to draw every little branch, it's just not going to look real. And that's what she's really showing here with just the little bits. Like leave some to your viewer's imagination. This is really more real life than painting every single branch. Again, not every branch. She's got other plants like cactus, monstera. I love those. She moves into landscapes and breaks down how to start a landscape. This doesn't look like much here. Let's see what she's going to do with this. Ooh, okay. So she's showing you how to add green over the top, and don't miss how she is adding this little bit of yellow, or she's calling it cat orange right here. But I love how she is manipulating the paint while it's still wet. Take some clean water on your brush and flick some water splatter marks onto the grass. So she's getting that paint to spread out and create these white shapes. And then look what she's doing with that. She is going to go in and add some daisies, and it just adds to the viewer's imagination that there's more going on back here. Taking us to the beach where she's showing us how to do some clouds. Here she's using that same water effect by dropping water in to separate the water from the beach basically, and then she's going to add in and to make it look like the rolling waves coming up on the beach. That's beautiful. So this book is very, very beginner friendly. I don't see anything here that's going to give people too much trouble to where you would get frustrated and want to give up. She's breaking down the directions beautifully. Oh, she works into some donuts here, making me hungry. Not sure I can paint a whole lot of food without running to the kitchen. And birds, and don't forget, you do not have to paint birds in a realistic fashion. You could do purple birds, turquoise birds. I think it would be just beautiful. Same with bunnies. You don't have to do a white bunny. You can do a purple bunny if you want to. Okay, this is really helpful. She has included tracing pages for you if you need that. Keep in mind, you want to be painting on watercolor paper, something that has a really good weight. Now, you can put a piece of computer paper over this, trace the shape, and then do the old trick where you color with a pencil on the back of that paper. Let me show you. Take a piece of computer paper and just a standard number 2 pencil, and you're going to trace around over the design. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you want more pieces or less pieces, you can go for it at this point. Okay. And then you're going to take this paper and turn it over and scribble. You can hold it up to the light and make sure that you're getting on all of the lines. And then when you lay it on a piece of watercolor paper, trace around the shapes again on your good side. It's going to leave a mark here for you. This method is going to work whether you can see through the paper or not. If you make a wrong mark, you can take your kneaded eraser. It's called a kneaded eraser because it stretches and kind of cleans itself as you stretch. And then you can just rub across and it'll come right up for you if you make a mistake or decide not to do that project or whatever. And then the book finishes up with various tracing pages. A little brief about the author. This is Emma Lefebvre, and gives a little bit of her backstory and talks about her YouTube channel. So be sure to check her out. She is a wonderful, inspiring YouTube artist. I enjoy watching her. I would highly recommend this book. I will have it linked in my description box below. Thank you for reviewing Emma's book with me today, and be sure to join me next time as I paint this cute cupcake using her tutorial. YouTube thinks that you will enjoy either one of these movies next, so I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.